So we got some more Montreal Canadiens stuff to dive into on this early Saturday afternoon. Talking about some of the notes and talking about some of the prospects as they head into the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We're going to be talking about some main NHL club stuff. We're going to be talking about some Laval Rocket stuff and going over some updates with injuries. So, without further ado, I think the hottest topic on the block is the fact that Montreal is in the dance and that they have forced their way into that final wildcard spot. Now, heading into their first round series against the Washington Capitals, there are some interesting things to note about the Habs and whom it is the team is expecting a major impact from. For example, this post was made on the Habs subreddit. It's a screenshot from MoneyPuck's website talking about the best lines in the NHL for goals for per 60 minutes. You can see that amongst the top 10, there is only one line here who has played over 700 minutes together, and it happens to be the 5th overall goals for per 60 minutes line. It is Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caufield. They're the 5th best line in the National Hockey League when it comes to goals for per 60 minutes, and I'm assuming that's at 5v5. It could be otherwise, but generally these kinds of stats are just 5v5. The only 4 lines who have produced more than Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caufield this season in terms of goals per 60 minutes are the Logan Cooley, Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller line in Utah, only 271 minutes together there, Ovechkin, Strome, and Alexei Protosh in Washington, Hyman, Draisaitl, McDavid, which is obviously not surprising, and then the best line in the NHL in this metric is Voronkov, Monahan, and Marchenko. What a crazy comeback line for the Columbus Blue Jackets in terms of guys that they brought in and guys whom they developed and just fostered into top-tier players. Voronkov and Marchenko, give yourselves a pat on the back. But Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caufield is the most deployed line out of all of these over here. They're better than a McMichael, Dubois, Wilson line, Gensel, Point, Kucherov, Neighbors, Thomas, Buchnevich, Rust, Crosby, Raquel, and then Nyes, Matthews, and Marner all over here. Montreal was better than all of them. Now you might notice that the Capitals do have 2 lines in the top 10 here. Will that play a part in the series against Montreal later this week? Who really knows? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you think about that. Also interesting to note is if you take a look at the top 15, you'll see that Utah has 3 lines here in terms of goals for per 60. McBain, Cooley, and Genther, and Krause, McBain, and Doan are also listed here. So what that says to me is that Jack McBain and Logan Cooley have been doing some pretty good work no matter whom it is they are playing with. Now, one of the other bigger news surrounding Montreal Canadiens players is what we had seen yesterday at practice. Because, surprising to many folks, yesterday we actually saw Martin St. Louis put Ivan Demidov on the first power play unit. And there were some drills, there were some shifts with Demidov on that first unit. This is what Marty St. Louis said yesterday about that. I have a bunch of cards that I can use. Obviously, we got Ivan Demidov now. That's a new card. And, I don't know, just the idea of Ivan Demidov suiting up on the first power play in the absence of a Slafkovsky or a whomever else, it's just so interesting, man. Maybe you take off Laine. Maybe you have Caufield in the Laine one-timer spot, and you have Demidov roving around in the point instead. Maybe that makes sense. Have Slafkovsky as a net front guy, Demidov on the right, Suzuki and Hudson manning the points, or whatever. There are a lot of things that you could go out there and accomplish, but ultimately we will have to wait and see, because while it is true that Demidov might have had a look or two on Power Play 1 yesterday, earlier today, Demidov was played on the second power play unit with Matheson, with everybody else. So who knows if it's a permanent change, who knows if it's an experiment that we actually will see heading into tomorrow and the next few days against Washington. But just having Demidov in that spot, pretty good thing right there, I would say. Now, speaking about Demidov, let's go over what he had to say himself about just the transition into the NHL and what it means to play against Ovechkin. He said this, yeah, I think it does mean a little bit more to be playing against Ovechkin, but right now, I just want to help my team win. And big shout out over to Go Habs Go on the subreddit for posting about that. Demidov does say that, oh yeah, it probably does mean more to be playing against Ovechkin, but Patrik Laine said the exact opposite. How special could it be to play against Alex Ovechkin? Laine says it doesn't matter, I could not care less. So, there you go. Demidov and Laine with some very differing perspectives in terms of what it means to be playing against the Great Eight. Speaking about Demidov, though, this quote was also going around on social media. Jeff O'Neill on TSN Overdrive, previewing the hockey playoffs this year, went out there and spoke about Ivan Demidov. He said this, I don't care if we've only seen 2 games out of Demidov. He's a stud. Absolutely, he can be a difference maker. Every time he steps onto the ice, it seems like he doesn't care where he is. Bell Center, NHL playoffs, he will be dynamic. Jeff O'Neill is earning himself some fans in Montreal with these comments here, folks. I never thought I'd see the day. But him going out there and praising the heck out of Ivan Demidov on Toronto Sports Network obviously is a pretty good sign that things are turning around in Montreal. Not that one person's comments immediately validates or invalidates the legitimacy of a hockey player, but it is nice to see it going Montreal's way for once. Now, let's finalize things by talking about the Laval Rocket and what's going on with them over there, because there were some extra notes that we should dive into, like this one here, posted by Marco D'Amico. Montreal Canadiens prospect Tyler Thorpe is expected to make his AHL debut tonight against the Belleville Senators. 6 regulars, including David Reinbacher, are expected to stay in Laval and rest up before the start of the AHL playoffs. So Tyler Thorpe, the guy that we had discussed a few days ago as a recent signee by the Montreal Canadiens, a 5th-round pick out of the Vancouver Giants and a Richmond, BC native, first guy to be taken out of the 5th round by the Canadiens in the Giants organization since Brendan Gallagher. But Thorpe is going to be playing. Awesome news for him. A reply to this tweet, though, by Marco D'Amico says this, I'm really starting to worry about David Reinbacher. The dude's barely played this year and he's still sitting games out. There's no way he is fatigued. The kid needs reps. And that's a fair perspective if you wanted to come at it from that angle. Oh yeah, David Reinbacher has not been playing much all year. Why does he need to rest? Marco D'Amico, though, goes out there and responds saying, hey, I have no worries whatsoever. They want him ready for the playoffs, and the Sens are likely going to be out for revenge. It's always very physical versus that team. Reinbacher looked great last night. I hope you're right. It just doesn't feel right. The kid's barely getting any games, constantly sitting. He got hurt again with no transparency on the injury. It just feels like his knee is still having issues. I understand, D'Amico replies, but again, if you've watched the Sens this season versus Montreal, it's not worth the risk. So this ultimately does make sense if you're trying to look at it from a player management point of view. You're trying to say, hey, is it realistically a good idea to play him in this game? Probably not. Just in terms of what the Canadiens and the Laval Rocket schools are and what they want to get out of this player, judging him for not playing in a game in a back-to-back against Belleville, I can understand it, but at the same time, the Laval's reasoning makes sense too, so we will just have to wait and see. Montreal and Laval couldn't get David Reinbacher playing his best hockey after this. Who really knows? If by the time next season rolls around, Reinbacher is a full-time replacement for David Savard, I don't think anybody's going to be complaining about him sitting out AHL games a few months beforehand, right? So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all these Canadiens news and notes, from Slafkovsky-Caufield-Slafkovsky being one of the best lines in the NHL, to Ivan Demidov and Patrik Laine speaking out about Ovechkin in very different ways, to what's going on in the AHL with Tyler Thorpe and David Reinbacher. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.